You're welcome. If yesterday was not sufficient history for you, President Barack Hussein Obama in Cairo redefining America's relationship with the Muslim world, and if today was not sufficient history for you, the first president to visit Buchenwald, the sub-camp of which was liberated by his great-uncle, wait until tomorrow, when black president and white great-uncle commemorate the Normandy landing to defeat the so-called super race. With us tonight is Doug Brinkley, presidential historian at Rice University. And Doug, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Doug, if journalism is the first draft of history, what's a historian's first draft of today's history?
Well, it's a remarkable set of speeches we're seeing here. The Cairo kind of redefining the peace process, trying to jumpstart it, reaching out to the Muslim world in a very innovative way that I think is generational. In many ways, Barack Obama's reaching out to the new generation of Arabs and saying, look, America's your friend, and then going to Buchenwald today with Elie Wiesel at his side, one of the Nobel Prize winners, the conscience of the Holocaust. He also visited Dresden, the famous city that had been bombed in World War II by Allied forces, which Kurt Vonnegut famously wrote about in Slaughterhouse 5, and then going to Normandy and being with Sakharov and Brown and Harper, and mainly being there to honor, when you go to the Pointe du Hoc area there at Omaha Beach, it's those crosses, the white crosses, that take your breath away, that even though presidents come and give wonderful speeches like Ronald Reagan gave in 1984, it's the memory of those brave servicemen who liberated Europe in 1944 that are the real heroes of every June 6th.
I asked Richard Wolff this, and now I'd like to get your take. What is your sense of the intended political meaning behind Mr. Obama's visit, especially given the innuendo we've seen about Obama as un-American and even anti-American?
Well, Obama is a global president, and just like we have the Internet and the World Wide Web, his message to the world is don't blame me for a lot of past sins. I think if you listen to the Cairo speech yesterday, you'll hear him talking about colonialism in the Middle East, and perhaps in the Cold War they weren't treated well or treated as pawns in a game. And he's trying to strike a tone that we're a new generation, yet we haven't forgotten our history, yet we're moving forward in a new direction. Tomorrow's going to be a day to honor the service men and women of America, to honor that generation. Remember, this is the 65th, so most of the veterans that are still alive are in their 80s, and this is the big anniversary now. When Reagan went there, it was the 40th, and many of them were just starting to get Social Security checks, but now this truly is the last of the greatest generation. So the veterans will be, I think, the stars of tomorrow's show, and Obama, I'm sure, will give a great speech, but talking to men like Lem Lamel, who was one of those boys at Pointe du Hoc that went up the 150-foot promontory there. Those are the great stories that Americans love to remember on that day.
Let's talk about, let's continue on that point. As far as Normandy D-Day, the idea of a black president, the son of a white woman who married a black man, standing at Normandy tomorrow, the leader of the free world, to commemorate the turning point in the defeat of the Nazi dream of racial purity. What will future historians say about that aspect of tomorrow?
Well, it's incredible, isn't it? And just remember that these men and women, and particularly the men of D-Day, the U.S. Army 2nd Rangers and the armada of hundreds of American ships, people coming in that first wave, they were fighting for democracy. They were the soldiers of democracy. And yet, if you were African-American in 1944 at D-Day, you didn't have the right to vote in the South. Many of the civil rights leaders, people like Hosea Williams and Medgar Evers, came back from World War II and fought for the right to vote. That's what the civil rights movement was about. So here you have a perfect segue of the V for victory, if you like, the liberation of Europe from fascism, and also the fact that we've overcome racial discrimination to a large degree in this country, at least enough that African-American can be voted president. So it's a day wrought with symbolism tomorrow.
And perhaps that sort of liberation from fascism, maybe that underscores why the trip to Buchenwald perhaps was even more effective than if Barack Obama, the president, had gone to Israel. But in any case, Doug Brinkley, presidential historian, co-author of the Reagan Diaries. Doug, thanks so much for your time tonight. We appreciate it.